So, now that we finally got that out of the way. The subject today is the millennial experience, so to speak. The term itself is a term that's just kind of often used indiscriminately, and people just kind of throw it around. What does it actually mean to be a millennial? It's a kind of a particular group of people, right? There's an age subset. So the term millennial generally refers to a group or a generation of people born between the early 1980s and the 1990s, and some have even extended it to the early 2000s. So even up to, for example, 2004, 2005, those would be considered millennials. They're also called, in the American context, particularly the Peter Pan or the boomerang generation. The reason being because they leave the home, go to college, and then come right back because they can't buy their own homes. There's a lot of factors that go into it, right? In the 80s and 90s, the income inequality that existed or exists today did not exist at that same time. So people would go to school and they could have a part-time job and they could rent their home, they could pay for college, they could pay for groceries, all these things on a part-time salary. And that was just a different time because of the difference in the economy. What's particular about millennials is that they have lived at a time that is technology driven, right? So for them as a whole, for us as I should say as a whole, technology has just been a part of our lives from the beginning. Whether it was early computers, laptops, iPhones, tablets, all these things they came out at a time when it was easy for us to adapt to them, right? Easy for us to be able to use them. And that changed a lot. You have to remember, I mean, I'm personally old enough that I can remember using dial-up. And that's a funny thing because kids today, they can't imagine sitting in a computer, you can't use the phone while you're using the computer. We all remember that. And that was, you think about it now, and this phone is more powerful than 100 computers from the 1990s. Just this tiny little thing. And it's a huge shift. The bandwidth, the internet availability, Wi-Fi, mobile devices, all these things have changed how people interact with the world completely. That's why the world today is so very different than even 10 years ago, because they didn't have 4G 10 years ago. They had barely 3G that they had come out with. 15 years ago, there were no smartphones as they are today. And you think about that, 15 years ago wasn't that long ago. And if we can remember what that's like, kids for the most part don't remember what that's like. They don't know what it was like not having those types of things. How that's affected the attitude of a young person is particular. Because having that always on or always connected mentality means that you are always expecting that you have the ability to access things that people before had no ability to access. You are able to access social media by picking up your phone and looking at it. Literally, that's all you have to do is look at your phone. Once you can access that social media, what happens? And what's interesting is that the same experience or response that people get from drugs, from alcohol, which is dopamine, right? And you'll see that in the video that's coming up. It's the same exact response that you get when you get a notification on your phone. It's been studied. It's clear. Dopamine comes out in your brain when you get a notification, or you get a like, or you get a love on your picture, or something, or a retweet. It's the same exact thing. And that's very, very dangerous. Because what's the age limit for alcohol? 21. What's the age limit for tobacco? 18. There's an age limit for these things, right? But with phones, what's the age limit? When an Abba says I can have one. that's the age limit, right? So there are also then, as it goes for that aspect, obviously that's kind of what their background is, but then what are the traits of a millennial? And what is a post-millennial? We're going to combine the two for this session for the sake of just kind of making it a little bit more focused. But essentially, the certain traits you're going to find is, number one, they're heavy on multitasking, right? Tell me how many times you've seen your son or daughter have their phone while they're talking to you. Yeah, okay, I got it. And they don't even have to look at the phone anymore, right? I'm the same way. I don't have to look at the phone. I can just type, and I know where the keys are. On a non-physical keyboard, I know where the keys are. And when you think about that, it's really fascinating. It's powerful. So multitasking pros, they always are trying to do more than one thing. And actually, I'm not very good at that myself. One of the things a lot of my friends do that I've seen is that they'll go ahead and watch a TV show while they're studying. So you imagine they have their it's literally like this. They're studying, just back and forth, back and forth. And it's an ability to just constantly switch back. And that's not a good thing always, because then it's very difficult to just sit. Have you ever seen your son or daughter in the past 5 years, since smartphones became ubiquitous, have you seen them not have a smartphone in front of them? Or someone who's that age not have a smartphone? Have you seen what they do? Like, they don't know what to do, right? They just look around and like, can I get my phone back, please? So there's some interesting things. Connected, as I said before, they're always going to have a social media account. They're going to have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, Tumblr. All these different things are always going to be at their fingertips. And you won't even know the number of accounts they have. Because another thing that's very common, burner accounts. People will have an account that's for themselves, and then they know that their parents are following them or friended them on there. They'll have a separate account. Parents don't know about that account. Parents don't know about the pictures that are being put up on that account. They don't know what's being tweeted on that account. You can block people, you can make it so only certain people can see what's going on. And they know every single intricacy of each and every single social media platform. So if you think that you know everything your kid's doing, you know nothing your kid's doing. That's a fact. Very tech savvy. When I was younger, my father had a cell phone store. And it was funny because he owned the store and he would interact with customers on a daily basis. But when I was there, if someone was trying to activate their phone and they asked him a question, he'd say, just give it to him. And that's all. You know, I would just, oh yeah, here, this, there you go. We can adapt very quickly. It's very easy to just give me a piece of technology, boom, boom, boom. Okay, this is how it works. I can teach you now. In literally just 10 minutes, I can look at something, understand what's going on, and this is how it works. This is actually very frustrating when someone can't do that for us, because we're thinking, well, why can't you just get it? Why can't you understand? The reason being because we've grown up with this technology, right? And others have not. So as a result of that, it's just like, it's almost like it's just breathing. Being able to breathe is the same thing. Number 4, desire for instant gratification. We all know this one. Instant gratification, when you want something, what do? You buy it. You get it right there. You get it on your phone, you want to watch a movie, click, 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 there you go, put it up on the TV screen, cast it. Right? Have you ever had your kids say something to you that you don't understand? Why don't you just buy this movie and then we'll cast it to the TV and we can watch it together with surround sound? And you're like, I don't know 5 of the words in that sentence that you just used. Right? Because these are just different terminologies. But more importantly, it's just how does it work so fast? You know, again, I remember, I'm old enough, going to Blockbuster. You had to go find the movie, pick out the movie, get the VHS, go back home, put it in, rewind it. Because most times, even though they said be kind and rewind, people didn't rewind it, right? You watch the movie, you put it back in the tape, you take it all the way back. Today, pull up Netflix, and bam. And it actually is a bigger problem in the sense of it's almost the juxtaposition or problem of too many choices. You have one movie that you want to see, but then there's 100 other movies you want to see as well. So you're thinking, well, maybe we can watch this one. No, maybe we can watch this one. There are people who will get together and say, let's just watch a movie, and they won't watch a movie because they couldn't pick a movie. They're like, let's watch this one. Oh, actually, let's watch this. No, let's watch this one. Instant gratification, it's always at your fingertips. Amazon is probably the greatest fulfillment of this. Why? Because Amazon Prime has gone from, you had to wait 5 days to get your package, to 2 days to get your package, to 1 day to get your package, to same day to get your package, to 1 hour until you get your package. That's how fast things can be done. If you want to get your food, Uber Eats will deliver it to you within 45 minutes, and you'll have it. You don't have to go out and drive and pick it up and go come gap and get it. The place doesn't have to offer delivery because Uber Eats will bring it to you. Instant gratification is always there. Now, understand that not everything that's mentioned in the following video is going to be completely relevant to us as a Muslim community. But for the most part, one of the most dangerous things we can do is think that we're isolated from the larger American context. We are just as much a part of it, and just as many of the problems that are happening within the larger Muslim community are happening within our own community. We just don't know about it, and that's a bigger problem. So we're going to go through, we'll just watch this quick video, inshallah. It's about 12 minutes, I believe.
What's the millennial question? Apparently millennials as a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately 1984 and after, are tough to manage. And they're accused of being entitled and narcissistic. is a big one. And because they confound leadership so much, what's happening is leaders are asking the millennials, what do you want? And millennials are saying, we want to work in a place with purpose, love that. We want to make an impact, whatever that means. We want free food and beanbags. And so somebody articulates some sort of purpose, there's lots of free food and there's beanbags, and yet for some reason, they're still not happy. And that's because there's a missing piece. What I've learned is that I can break it down into 4 pieces, right? There are four things, 4 characteristics. One is parenting, the other one is technology, the third is impatience, and the fourth is environment. The generation that we call the millennials, too many of them grew up subject to, not my words, failed parenting strategies, where, for example, they were told that they were special all the time. They were told that they could have anything they wanted in life, just because they wanted it. Right? They were told, some of them got into honors classes not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained. And some of them got A's not because they earned them, but because the teachers didn't want to deal with the parents. Some kids got participation medals. You got a medal for coming in last, right? Which the science we know is pretty clear, which is it devalues the medal and the reward for those who actually work hard. And that actually makes the person who comes in last feel embarrassed because they know they didn't deserve it, so it actually makes them feel worse, right? So you take this group of people, and they graduate school, and they get a job, and they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant, they find out they're not special, their moms can't get them a promotion, that you get nothing for coming in last, and by the way, you can't just have it because you want it, right? And in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered. And so you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. The other problem, to compound it, is we're growing up in a Facebook, Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on things. We're good at showing people that life is amazing even though I'm depressed, right? And so everybody sounds tough, and everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little toughness, and most people don't have it figured out. And so when the more senior people say, well, what should we do? They sound like, this is what you gotta do. And they have no clue. So you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations, right? Through no fault of their own. Right? They were dealt a bad hand, right? Now let's add in technology. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good, right? So we've all had it. We're feeling a little bit down, we're feeling a little lonely, and so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends, hi. Because it feels good when you get a response, right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is going slower. Did I do something wrong? Did they not like me anymore, right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get it, you're going to hit a dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive, right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down. But that's basically what's happening. Right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Very frustrating for our parents, very important for us. It allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe, right? It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty they grow older, too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that their friends, that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on their friends, they have fun with their friends. But they also know that their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook, right? These things balance. Alcohol is not bad, too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun, too much gambling is dangerous, right? There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. It's the imbalance, right? If you're sitting at dinner with your friends and you're texting somebody who's not there, that's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted, right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse, right? So you have a generation growing up with lower self-esteem that doesn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress, right? Now you add in the sense of impatience, right? They've grown up in a world of instant gratification. You want to buy something, you go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. You want to watch a movie? Log on and watch a movie. You don't check movie times. You want to watch a TV show? Binge. You don't even have to wait week to week to week, right? I know people who skip seasons just so they can binge at the end of the season, right? Instant gratification. You want to go on a date? You don't even have to learn how to be like, hey. You don't even have to learn and practice that skill. You don't have to be the uncomfortable one who says yes when we mean no, and says no when we mean no, and yes when you don't have to swipe right. Bang, I'm stuck. Right? You don't have to learn the social coping mechanisms, right? Everything you want, you can have instantaneously. Everything you want, instant gratification. Except job satisfaction and strength of relationships, there ain't no app for that. They are slow, meandering, uncomfortable, messy processes. And so I keep meeting these wonderful, fantastic, idealistic, hardworking, smart kids. They just graduated school. They're in their entry-level job. I sit down with them and I go, how's it going? They go, I think I'm going to quit. I'm like, why? They're like, I'm not making an impact. I'm like, you've been here 8 months. It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain and they have this abstract concept called impact they want to have in the world, which is the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. I don't care if you go up the mountain quickly or slowly, but there's still a mountain. And so what this young generation needs to learn is patience. That some things that really, really matter, like love, or job fulfillment, joy, love of life, self-confidence, a skill set, any of these things, all of these things take time. Sometimes you can expedite pieces of it, but the overall journey is arduous and long and difficult. And if you don't ask for help and learn that skill set, you will fall off the mountain, or you will, the worst case scenario, and we're already seeing, the worst case scenario is we're seeing an increase in suicide rates, we're seeing an increase in this generation, we're seeing an increase in accidental deaths due to drug overdoses, we're seeing more and more kids drop out of school or take leaves of absence due to depression. Unheard of. This is really bad. The best case scenario, those are all bad cases, right? The best case scenario is you'll have an entire population growing up and going through life and just never really finding joy. They'll never really find deep fulfillment in work or in life. They'll just...
So from there, it just kind of gets into some other aspects that aren't necessarily relevant. Particular things that were mentioned that are key for us to recognize are certainly relevant to our communities. Number one, lower self-esteem. Right? That is a clear problem just in general. Because, again, if I'm posting a picture, and this is going to sound insane, but if I post a picture and on average I get 100 likes, and I don't hit 100 likes on a picture, guess what happens? Oh my God, end of the world. Why? Because think about this for a second. Where is their sense of self coming from? From the idea that I as an individual have reached a point in my life where I will earn 100 likes on my picture. That is where they are in their life. And that is what they believe to be now the standard they've reached. So for us, a good analogy would be, I make $100,000 a year, for example. I don't. But if I make $100,000 a year, right? And then suddenly I have to leave my job and go get a different one where I make $60,000 a year. Same thing. End of the world, right? Things are completely different now. For them, now it goes from 100 likes to 60. Oh my God. Like, what did I do? I must be so ugly. And it's a big, I'll be honest, it's a problem for all kids, boys and girls, but girls particularly. Because society is constantly telling them what? You need to look this way. You need to feel and like act and look a certain way, and this is how you're supposed to be, this is how your body should be. And for women, if they don't get to that point where they're getting that validation, guess what happens? I must not be there. I must not be right. I must have a problem. And now self-esteem goes down. The 4 points he mentions as well, to understand it, is parenting, tech, and patience environment. He says parenting was, kids are being told they're too special, this and that. I think generally in our communities that's not a problem. The problem is actually the opposite. Kids are being told they're special by their teachers. Kids are being told that they're this by their friends. But their parents, silence. Parents are do this, and do this, and then don't do that. Do this and follow that with this and make sure I don't find out that you did this. Right? That's what parenting has really gotten to the point of. And so as a result, for them, with parenting, the problem they're going to face is not that their parents are telling them they're this or that, it's that there's a disconnect. Why are my parents not giving me any validation and everybody else in the world is telling me I'm this and I'm that and I'm this? Now that's a different kind of imbalance. And that's a particular Muslim problem. As it goes for technology, you heard him mention, right? Having that phone, what is it going to do? It's going to lead a young man or a young woman to feel like that's my outlet. That is where I go to find myself. That is where I go to find some modicum of relief when I'm in a difficult situation. So if I get into an accident, guys, I got into an accident, it was this, it was that, man, please keep me in your prayers. Post. That's where they're going. And that's why you get these strange posts from people where they're like, my father just died. It was so great to have him, and he was this, and he was that. It's literally right after, but they're posting on social media, and you're like, what's going on? Something doesn't make sense here. Right? And this actually happens very often. Suicide. We are being ignorant if we think suicide is not a problem in our communities. I have heard of so many stories of young men and young women who took their own life. And imagine what that means. The only thing we're left to question is what could we have done differently. But rarely do we ever talk about it enough to actually change our behavior. Usually it's just, this was so sad. I feel so bad for the family. So what's for dinner tonight? That's constantly shifting attention. We don't have these deeper discussions about why was that child depressed? Why was that child in a position where they thought that committing suicide was the answer? That is the bigger question. Drugs, huge problem, again. And if we ignore these things like we do suicide because, Allah nakari, that's it, well, we're just not going to talk about it because then it doesn't exist. Same thing with drugs. Oh, my kid doesn't do drugs. But guess what? There's a very good chance your kid has at least one time done drugs. Well, think about that for a second. I know that if I think about my younger brother, he's 19, mashallah, he just got into university, he's about to start in a couple days. And I'm pretty confident that he has never done any of those things. But at the same time, he might have. And how do I know? Because can we tell what exactly it is that our kids do on a daily basis if they're in college? Or even in high school? What do they do on a daily basis? When they leave school, where do they go? Are they actually going to their friend's house? This is not to put suspicion in your hearts and make you feel like I need to put a GPS tracker in their phone. Don't do that. Trust me, don't do that. That'll only break the relationship. Rather, it's about getting to a point where a child feels comfortable expressing what they're feeling, expressing what's going on in their life, so that you can advise them and guide them as a parent, rather than tell them, don't do this, don't do it. Because a part of them already knows they don't want to do that, or they shouldn't be doing that. So if they already know that, they don't need you telling them, don't do that. What they need you to do is, this is why this is a problem. This is why this is going to be bad for you. This is what's going to cause, this is the consequences that are going to occur if you do this. That's what they need, not don't do it. They already know don't do it. That's why they're even confused about doing it in the first place. So, particularly then, for young Muslim millennials, right? What are the problems that they're facing? Simon Sinek, in that video, he talked about people, millennials in particular, feeling like they had no fulfillment in their jobs, right? As a whole, we as Muslims don't expect to find necessarily fulfillment in our work. It can happen, absolutely. And if we do it the right way, it absolutely is a very real possibility. But that aside, the problem is that they don't have something else fulfilling them. And when you find that combination, it's actually a beautiful thing, subhanAllah. What ends up happening is that these kids, they don't have fulfillment in their work, and they definitely don't find any fulfillment in their religion. Why? Because what's being presented to them as Islam, it is an industrialized form of Islam. It is step 1, wake up. Step 2, make wudu. Step 3, stand up, bow, stand up, prostrate. Sit up, prostrate, stand up. Rinse, repeat. Do it again. 3 o'clock, I better see you doing it. 5 o'clock, I better see you doing it. 7 o'clock, I better see you doing it. But where's the background? What are our